California Commercial Driver Handbook, Audio Edition, Section 2.15 through 2.19. The best way to learn is to listen. We begin with 2.15, Railroad Highway Crossings. Railroad highway grade crossings are a special kind of intersection where the roadway crosses the train tracks. These crossings are always dangerous. Every such crossing must be approached with the exception that a train is coming. It is extremely difficult to judge the distance of the train from the crossing as well as the speed of an approaching train. What types of railroad crossings are there? Well, there's one is a passive crossing. This type of crossing does not have any type of traffic control device. The decision to stop or proceed rests entirely in your hands. Passive crossings requires you to recognize the crossing. Search for any train using the tracks and decide if there is sufficient clear space to cross safely. And then there's active crossings. This type of crossing has a traffic control device installed at the crossing to regulate traffic at the crossing. These active devices include flashing red lights, with or without bells, and flashing red lights with bells and gates. Warning signs and devices. Advance warning signs. The round, black on yellow warning sign is placed ahead of a public railroad crossing. The advance warning sign tells you to slow down, look and listen for the train, and be prepared to stop at the tracks if a train is coming. All passengers in hazmat carrying vehicles are required to stop. Look at this picture here to see the active warning sign. Pavement markings. Pavement markings mean the same as the advance warning sign. They consist of an X with the letters RR, or a no passing marking on the two-lane roads. See this picture here. There is also a no passing zone sign on two-lane roads. There may be a white top line painted on the pavement before the railroad tracks. The front of the school bus must remain behind this line while stopping at this crossing. There's also crossbuck signs. This sign marks the grade crossing. It requires you to yield the right-of-way to a train. If there is no white stop line painted on the pavement, vehicles that are required to stop must stop no closer than 15 feet or more than 50 feet from the nearest rail of the nearest track. When the road crosses over more than one track, a sign below the crossbuck indicates the number of tracks. See this picture here. There are flashing red light signals at many highway rail grade crossings. The crossbuck sign has flashing red lights and bells. When the lights begin to flash, stop. A train is approaching. You are required to yield the right-of-way to the train. If there is more than one track, make sure all tracks are clear before crossing. See this picture here. Gates. Many railroad highway crossings have gates with flashing red lights and bells. Stop when the lights begin to flash and before the gate lowers across the road lane. Remain stopped until the gates go up and the lights have stopped flashing. Proceed when it's safe. See this picture here. Driving procedures. Never race a train to a crossing. Never attempt to race a train to a crossing. It is extremely difficult to judge the speed of an approaching train. Reduce your speed. Speed must be reduced in accordance with your ability to see approaching trains in any direction, and speed must be held at a point in which will permit you to stop short of the tracks in case a stop is necessary. Do not expect to hear a train. Trains may not or are prohibited from sounding horns when approaching some crossings. Public crossings where trains do not sound horns should be identified by signs. Noise inside your vehicle may also prevent you from hearing the train horn until the train is dangerously close to the crossing. Do not rely on signals. You should not rely solely upon the presence of warning signals, gates, or flagmen to warn the approach of train. Be especially alert at crossings. They do not have gates or flashing red lights. Double tracks require a double check. Remember that a train on one track may hide a train on another track, so look both ways before crossing. After one train has cleared a crossing, be sure no other trains are near before starting across the tracks. Yard areas and grade crossings in cities and towns. Yard areas and grade crossings in cities and towns are just as dangerous as rural grade crossings. Approach them with as much caution. Stop safely at railroad crossings. A full stop is required at grade crossings whenever the nature of cargo makes a stop mandatory under state and federal regulations, or such a stop is otherwise required by law. When stopping, be sure to check for traffic behind you while stopping gradually. Use a pull-out lane if available. Turn on your four-way emergency flashers. Crossing the tracks. Railroad crossings with steep approaches can cause your unit to hang up on the tracks. Never permit traffic conditions to trap you in a position where you have to stop on the tracks. Be sure you can get all the way across the tracks before you start to cross. It takes a typical tractor-trailer unit at least 14 seconds to clear a single track, and more than 15 seconds to clear a double track. Do not shift gears while crossing the railroad tracks. That's on your test. Do not shift gears while crossing the railroad tracks. Let's talk about special situations. Be aware, these trailers can get stuck on raised crossings. Low slung units like lowboy, car carrier, moving van, possum belly livestock trailers. Single axle tractor pulling a long trailer with its landing gears set to accommodate a tandem axle tractor. If for any reason you get stuck on the tracks, get out of your vehicle and away from the tracks. Check signposts or signal housings at the crossing for emergency notification information. Call 911 or other emergency number. Give the location of the crossing using all identifiable landmarks, especially the DOT number if it's posted. Mountain driving. In mountain driving, gravity plays a major role. On any upgrade, gravity slows you down. The steeper the grade, the longer the grade, and/or the heavier the load, the more you will have to use your lower gears to climb hills or mountains. In coming down long, steep downgrades, gravity causes the speed of your vehicle to increase. You must select an appropriate, safe speed and then use a lower gear and proper braking techniques. You should plan ahead and obtain information about any long, steep grades along the planned route of travel. If possible, talk to other drivers who are familiar with the grades to find out what speeds are safe. You must go slowly enough so your brakes can hold you back without getting too hot. If the brakes become too hot, they may start to fade. This means you have to apply them harder and harder to get the same stopping power. If you continue to use the brakes hard, they can keep fading until you cannot slow down or stop at all. So select a safe speed. Your most important consideration is to select a speed that is not too fast for the total weight of the vehicle, the length of the grade, the steepness of the grade, the road conditions, and the weather. If a speed limit is posted or there is a sign indicating maximum safe speed, never exceed the speed shown. Also, look for the heed warning signs indicating the length of the steepness of the grade. You must use the braking effect of the engine as the principal way of controlling your speed. The braking effect of the engine is greatest when it is near the governed RPMs and the transmission is in the lower gears. So save your brakes so you will be able to slow or stop as required by road and traffic conditions. This is important. Select the right gear before you start down the grade. Shift the transmission to a low gear before you start down the grade. Do not try to downshift after your speed has already built up. You will not be able to shift into a lower gear. You may not even be able to get back into any gear, and all engine braking effect will be lost. Forcing an automatic transmission into a lower gear at high speeds could damage the transmission and also lead to a loss of all engine braking effect. Now, with older trucks, a rule for choosing gear is to use the same gear going down a hill that you would need to climb the hill. However, new trucks have low friction parts and streamlined shapes for fuel economy. They may also have more powerful engines. This means they can go up hills in a higher gear and have less friction and air drag to hold them back going down hills. So for this reason, drivers of modern trucks may have to use lower gears going down a hill than would be required to go up the hill. You should know what is right for your vehicle before you go down to grade. Let's talk about brake fading and failure. This is also important. Brakes are designed so brake shoes or pads rubbing against the brake drum or disc to slow the vehicle. Braking creates heat, but brakes are designed to take a lot of heat. However, brakes can fade or fail from excessive heat caused by using them too much and not relying on the engine braking effect. Brake fade is also affected by adjustment. To safely control a vehicle, every brake must do its share of the work. Brakes out of adjustment will stop doing their share before those that are in adjustment. The other brakes can then overheat and fade, and there will not be enough braking available to control the vehicle. Brakes can get out of adjustment quickly, especially when they are used a lot. Also, brake linings wear faster when they are hot. Therefore, brake adjustments must be checked frequently. Let's talk about the proper braking technique. Remember, the use of brakes on a long or steep downgrade is only a supplement to the braking effect of the engine. Once the vehicle is in the proper low gear, the following are the proper braking techniques. Now remember this. 1. Apply the brakes just hard enough to feel a definite slowdown. When your speed has been reduced to approximately 5 miles per hour below your safe speed, release the brakes. This brake application should last for about 3 seconds. When your speed has increased up to the safe speed, repeat the step 1 and step 2. For example, if your safe speed is 40 miles per hour, you would not apply the brakes until your speed reaches 40 miles per hour. You now apply the brakes hard enough to gradually reduce your speed to 35, and then release the brakes. Repeat this as often as necessary until you have reached the end of the downgrade. Now, escape ramps have been built on many steep mountain downgrades. Escape ramps are made to stop runaway vehicles safely without injuring drivers and passengers. Escape ramps use a long bed of loose, soft material to slow a runaway vehicle, sometimes in combination with an upgrade. Now, escape ramps locations on your route. Signs show drivers where these ramps are located. Escape ramps save lives, equipment, and cargo. And now it's time to test your knowledge. I'll ask a few questions, and you should know the answer in your mind. If you don't know the answer, please listen to this section again. Question number 1. What factors determine your selection of a safe speed when going down a long, steep downgrade? Number 2. Why should you be in the proper gear before you start down a hill? Number 3. Describe the proper braking technique when going down a long, steep downgrade. Number 4. What type of vehicle can get stuck on a railroad crossing? Number 5. How long does it take for a typical tractor-trailer unit to clear a double track? Now, these questions may be on your test. If you cannot answer them, please re-listen to this section. 2.17. Driving Emergencies. Traffic emergencies occur when two vehicles are about to collide. Vehicle emergencies occurs when tires, brakes, or other critical parts fail. Following the safety practices in this handbook can help prevent emergencies. If an emergency does happen, your chances of avoiding an accident depend upon how well you take action. Actions you can take are discussed here in this video. Steering to avoid an accident. Steering. Stopping is not always the safest thing to do in an emergency. When you do not have enough room to stop, you may have to steer away from what is ahead. Remember, you can almost always turn to miss an obstacle more quickly than you can stop. However, top-heavy vehicles and tractors with multiple trailers, they may flip over. Keep both hands on the steering wheel. In order to turn quickly, you must have a firm grip on the steering wheel with both hands. The best way to have both hands on the wheel, if there is an emergency, is to keep them there all the time. How to turn quickly and safely. A quick turn can be made safely if it is done right away. Here are some points that safe drivers use. Do not apply the brake while you are turning. If it is very easy to lock the wheels while turning. If that happens, you may skid out of control. Do not turn more than needed to clear whatever is in your way. The more sharply you turn, the greater the chances of a skid or a rollover. Be prepared to countersteer, that is, to turn the wheel back in the other direction once you have passed whatever is in your path. Unless you are prepared to countersteer, you will not be able to do it quickly enough. You should think of emergency steering and countersteering as two parts in one driving action. Now, where to steer? That's the question, where to steer. If an oncoming driver has drifted into your lane, a move to your right is best. If that driver realizes what's happened, the natural response will be to return to his or her own lane. If something is blocking your path, the best direction to steer will depend on the situation. If you have been using your mirrors, you will know which lane is empty and can be safely used. If the shoulder is clear, going right may be best. No one is likely to be driving on the shoulder, but someone may be passing you on the left. You will know if you have been using your mirrors. If you are blocked on both sides, a move to the right may be best. At least you will not force anyone into oncoming traffic and a possible head-on collision. Leaving the road. In some emergencies, you may have to drive off the road. It may be less risky than facing an accident with an oncoming vehicle. Most shoulders are strong enough to support the weight of a large vehicle and, therefore, offer an available escape route. Here are some guidelines if you do leave the road. Avoid braking. If possible, avoid using the brakes until your speed has dropped to about 20 miles per hour. Then brake very gently to avoid skidding on loose surfaces. Keep one set of wheels on the pavement if possible. This will help you maintain control. Stay on the shoulder. If the shoulder is clear, stay on it until your vehicle has come to a stop. Signal and check your mirrors before pulling back onto the road. Returning to the road. If you are forced to return to the road before you can stop, use the following procedure. Hold the wheel tightly and turn sharply enough to get right back on the road safely. Do not try to edge gradually back on the road. If you do, your tires might grab unexpectedly and you could lose control. When both front tires are on the pavement surface, countersteer immediately. The two turns should be made as a single steer-countersteer move. How to stop quickly and safely. If somebody suddenly pulls out in front of you, your natural response is to hit the brakes. This is a good response if there is enough distance to stop and you use the brakes correctly. You should brake in a way that will keep your vehicle in a straight line and allow you to turn if it becomes necessary. You can use the controlled braking method or the stab braking method. Let's talk about the controlled braking and the stab braking methods. Controlled braking. With this method, you apply the brakes as hard as you can without locking the wheels. Keep steering wheel movements very small while doing this. If you need to make a larger steering adjustment or if the wheels lock, release the brakes. Reapply the brakes as soon as you can. Now the stab braking method. Apply your brakes all the way. Release brakes when wheels lock up. As soon as the wheels start rolling, apply the brakes fully again. It can take up to 1 second for the wheels to start rolling after you release the brakes. If you reapply the brakes before the wheels start rolling, the vehicle will not straighten out. Note: stab braking can only be done in vehicles without anti-lock brakes. Do not jam on the brakes. Emergency braking does not mean pushing down on the brake pedal as hard as you can. That will only keep the wheels locked up and cause a skid. If the wheels are skidding, you cannot control your vehicle. Emergency braking means responding to a hazard by slowing the vehicle. Note: if you drive a vehicle with anti-lock brakes, you should read and follow the directions found in the owner's manual before stopping quickly. Now let's talk about brake failure. Brakes kept in good condition rarely fail. Most hydraulic brakes occur for one of two reasons: loss of hydraulic pressure or brake fade on long hills. Loss of hydraulic pressure: when the system will not build up pressure, the brake pedal will feel spongy or go to the floor. Here are some things you can do. You can downshift. Putting the vehicle into a lower gear will help to slow the vehicle. You can pump the brakes. Sometimes pumping the brake pedal will generate enough hydraulic pressure to stop the vehicle. And you can use the parking brake. The parking brake or emergency brake is separate from the hydraulic brake system. Therefore, it can be used to slow the vehicle. However, be sure to press and release the button or pull the release lever at the same time you use the emergency brake, so you can adjust the brake pressure and keep the wheels from locking up. You can find an escape route. While slowing the vehicle, look for an escape route: an open field, a side street, or an escape ramp. Turning uphill is a good way to slow and stop the vehicle. Make sure the vehicle does not start rolling backward after you stop. Put it in low gear, apply the parking brake, and if necessary, roll back into some obstacle that will stop the vehicle. Now, brake failure on downgrades. Going slow enough and braking properly will almost always prevent brake failure on long downgrades. Once the brakes have failed, however, you are going to have to look outside your vehicle for something to stop it. Your best hope is an escape ramp. If there is one, there will be signs telling you about it. Use it. Ramps are usually located a few miles from the top of a downgrade. Every year, hundreds of drivers avoid injury to themselves and damage to their vehicles by using these escape ramps. Some escape ramps use soft gravel that resists the motion of the vehicle and brings it to a stop. Others turn uphill, using the hill to stop the vehicle and soft gravel to hold it in place. Any driver who loses brakes going downhill should use an escape ramp if it's available. If you do not use it, your chances of having a serious accident may be much greater. If no escape ramp is available, take the least hazardous escape route you can, such as an open field, a side road that flattens out or turns uphill. Make the move as soon as you know your brakes do not work. The longer you wait, the faster the vehicle will go and the harder it will be to stop. Let's talk about tire failure. Recognize tire failure quickly. Knowing you have a tire failure will allow you more time to react. Having just a few extra seconds to remember what you are supposed to do can help. The major signs of tire failure are sound, vibration, and fill. Sound. A loud bang or a blowout is an easily recognizable sign. If it can take a few seconds for your vehicle to react, and you might think it was some other vehicle. Anytime you hear a tire blow, you would be safest to assume that it's your tire. Vibration. If the vehicle thumps or vibrates heavily, it may be a sign of one of the tires has gone flat. And with a rear tire, that may be the only sign you get. Filling a tire failure. If the steering feels heavy, it is probably a sign one of the front tires has failed. Sometimes failure of a rear tire will cause the vehicle to slide back and forth or fishtail. However, dual rear tires usually prevent this. Now, how do you respond to a tire failure? When a tire fails, your vehicle is in danger. You must immediately hold the steering wheel firmly, stay off the brakes, and check your tires. Hold the steering wheel firmly. If a front tire fails, it can twist the steering wheel out of your hands. The only way to prevent this is to keep a firm grip on the steering wheel with both hands at all times. Stay off the brake. It is natural to want to brake in an emergency. However, braking when a tire has failed could cause loss of control. Unless you are about to run into something, stay off the brake until the vehicle has slowed down. Then brake very gently, pull off the road and stop, and check your tires. After you have come to a stop, get out and check all the tires. Do this even if the vehicle seems to be handling all right. If one of your dual tires goes, the only way you know is by getting out and looking at it. Let's talk about anti-lock braking systems. ABS is a computerized system that keeps your wheels from locking up during hard brake applications. ABS is an addition to your normal brakes. It does not decrease or increase your normal braking capability. ABS only activates when wheels are about to lock up. ABS does not necessarily shorten your stopping distance, but it helps you keep the vehicle under control during hard braking situations. Now, how does anti-lock braking or ABS systems work? Well, sensors detect potential wheel lockup. An electronic control unit will then decrease brake pressure to avoid wheel lockup. Brake pressure is adjusted to provide the maximum braking without danger of a lockup. ABS works far faster than the driver can respond to potential wheel lockup. At all other times, the brake system will operate normally. Vehicles required to have ABS. The Department of Transportation, or DOT, requires that ABS be on tractor trailers with air brakes built on or after 1997, other air brake vehicles like trucks, buses, trailers, and converter dollies built on or after 1998, hydraulic brake trucks and buses with a gross vehicle weight rating of 10,000 pounds or more built after 1999. Many commercial vehicles built before these dates have been voluntarily equipped with the ABS or anti-lock brake system. How to know if your vehicle is equipped with ABS? Tractors, trucks, and buses will have yellow ABS malfunction lamps on the instrument panel. Trailers will have yellow ABS malfunction lamps on the left side, either on the front or rear corner. Dollies manufactured on or after 1998 are required to have a yellow lamp on the left side. As a system check on newer vehicles, the malfunction lamp comes on at startup for a bulb check and then goes out quickly. On older systems, the lamp could stay on until they are driving at least 5 miles per hour. If the lamp stays on after the bulb check or goes on once you are underway, you may have lost your ABS control. In the case of towed units manufactured before it was required by the DOT, it may be difficult to tell if the unit is equipped with ABS. Look under the vehicle for the ECU, electronic control unit, and wheel speed sensor wires coming from the back of the brakes. How ABS helps you. When you brake hard on slippery surfaces in a vehicle without anti-lock brakes, your wheels may lock up. When your wheels do lock up, you lose steering control. When your other wheels lock up, you may skid, jackknife, or even spin the vehicle. ABS helps you avoid wheel lockup and maintain control. When you may or may not be able to stop faster with ABS, but you should be able to steer around an obstacle while braking and avoid skids caused by overbraking. ABS on the tractor only or only on the trailer. Having ABS on only the tractor, only the trailer, or even on only one axle, it still gives you more control over the vehicle during braking, so brake normally. When only the tractor has ABS, you should be able to maintain steering control and there is less chance of jackknifing. But keep your eye on the trailer and let up on the brakes, if you can safely do so. When only the trailer has ABS, the trailer is less likely to swing out, but if you lose steering control or start to jackknife, let up on the brakes until you can regain control. Braking with ABS. When you drive a vehicle with ABS, you should brake as you always have. In other words, use only the braking force necessary to stop safely and stay in control. Brake the same way regardless of whether you have ABS on the bus, tractor, or trailer, or both. As you slow down, monitor your tractor and trailer and back off the brakes, if it is safe to do so, and stay in control. There is only one exception to this procedure. If you drive a straight truck or combination with working anti-brakes on all axles, in an emergency stop, you can fully apply the brakes. Braking if your anti-lock brake system is not working. Without ABS, you still have normal brake function. Drive and brake as you always have. Vehicles with ABS have yellow malfunction lamps to tell you if something is not working. As a system check on newer vehicles, the malfunction lamp comes on at startup for a bulb check and then goes out quickly. In older systems, the lamp could stay on until you are driving 5 miles per hour. If the lamp stays on after the bulb check or goes on once you are underway, you may have lost your ABS system control on one or more of your wheels. Remember, if your ABS malfunctions, you still have regular brakes. Drive normally, but get the system serviced soon. Safety reminders. ABS will not allow you to drive faster, follow more closely, or drive less carefully. ABS will not prevent power or turning skids. ABS should prevent brake-induced skids or jackknifes, but not those caused by spinning the drive wheels or going too fast in a turn. ABS will help you maintain your vehicle's control, but not always shorten your stopping distance. ABS will not increase or decrease ultimate stopping power. ABS is an add-on to your normal brakes, not a replacement for them. ABS will not change the way you normally brake. Under normal brake conditions, your vehicle will stop as it always stopped. ABS only comes into play when a wheel should normally have locked up because of over-braking. ABS will not compensate for bad brakes or poor brake maintenance. Remember, the best vehicle safety feature is still a safe driver. Drive so you never need to use your ABS. ABS could help to prevent a serious accident. Let's talk about skid control and recovery. A skid happens whenever the tires lose their grip on the road. This is caused in one of 4 ways: over-braking, oversteering, over-acceleration, or driving too fast. Over-braking, braking too hard and logging up the wheels. Skids also can occur when using the speed retarder when the road is slippery. Skids happen when you oversteer, turning the wheels more sharply than the vehicle can turn. Skid happens in over-acceleration, supplying too much power to the drive wheels, causing them to spin. Skids happen when you drive too fast. Most serious skids result from driving too fast for road conditions. Drivers who adjust their driving to road conditions do not over-accelerate and do have to overbrake or oversteer from too much speed. Let's talk about drive wheel skids. By far, the most common skid is one in which the rear wheels lose traction through excessive braking or acceleration. Skids caused by acceleration usually happen in ice or snow. Taking your foot off the accelerator can easily stop them. If it is very slippery, push the clutch in. Otherwise, the engine can keep the wheels from rolling freely and regain traction. Rear wheel braking skids occur when the rear drive wheels lock. Locked wheels have less traction than rolling wheels. The rear wheels usually slide sideways in an attempt to catch up with the front wheels. In a bus or straight truck, the vehicle will slide sideways in a spin-out, With vehicles towing trailers, a drive wheel skid can let the trailer push the towing vehicle sideways, which causes a sudden jackknife. Correct a drive wheel braking skid. Do the following to correct a drive wheel braking skid. Stop braking and counter steer. Stop braking. This will let the rear wheels roll again and keep the rear wheels from sliding. Counter steer. As a vehicle turns back on course, it has a tendency to keep on turning. Unless you turn the steering wheel quickly the other way, you may find yourself skidding in the opposite direction. Learn to stay off the brake, turn the steering wheel quickly, push in the clutch, and counter steer in a skid. This takes a lot of practice. The best place to get this practice is on a large driving range or a skid pad. See this picture. This is a picture of a jackknife. Let's talk about the front wheel skids. Driving too fast for conditions causes most front wheel skids. Other causes include lack of tread on the front tires and cargo loaded so not enough weight is on the front axle. In a front wheel skid, the front end tends to go in a straight line regardless of how much you turn the steering wheel. On a very slippery surface, you may not be able to steer around a curve or a turn. When a front wheel skid occurs, the only way to stop the skid is to let the vehicle slow down. Stop turning and or braking so hard. Slow down as quickly as possible without skidding. Now it's time to test your knowledge. I'll ask you a few questions. You should know the answer in your mind. If you do not, you may need to re-listen to this video. Stopping is not always the fastest thing to do in an emergency. Is this true or false? Number 2. Why are some advantages of going right instead of left around an obstacle? Number 3. What is an escape ramp? Number 4. If a tire blows out, you should put the brakes on hard to stop quickly. Is this true or false? Number 5. How do you know if your vehicle has anti-lock brakes? Number 6. What is the proper braking technique when driving a vehicle with anti-lock brakes? Number 7. How do anti-lock brakes help you? These questions may be on your test. If you cannot answer them all, reread or re-listen to these sections 2.17, 18, and 19. We have completed section 2.19. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you in the next video where we begin section 2.20.